Youth on Air Radio project. Voices from all across Europe.
Hello and welcome to one of the shows from the radio series titled Around Europe in 60 Minutes. We are Center for Social Innovation Centrifuge, a civil society organization based in Lazarevac, Serbia, which uses non-formal education tools to reach out to young people, explore their interests, and tackle their everyday problems. Today's show is one of the outputs of the project Youth on Air, whose aim is to raise the capacities of 5 non-governmental organizations from 4 European countries to use digital radio formats in their work. Supported by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union, this project has gathered civil society organizations from Belgium, North Macedonia, the UK, and Serbia, which partnered up to learn how to use radio waves to plunge into topics of interest to their target groups.
Our target group is youth, and one such group of youngsters is actually behind the mics today. In the next hour or so, you will be in the company of
Nikolina. I'm a student of mathematics and I'm also a youth worker.
Mihailo Ivković, student of mechanical engineering in Belgrade.
Ivana, a student of history of art and youth worker.
Emilia, a graphic designer and a youth worker too. We are all into different stuff, but today we are into one thing. We are here to explore an issue which has been receiving increasing attention in the past year, and that topic is mental health.
Listen up, experts are warning about a mental health pandemic that has been spreading lately and that should be treated as seriously as containing the coronavirus. We wanted to find out how young people in particular are dealing with the challenges that life has brought their way in these difficult times. Research carried out across Europe and the world indicates that at the end of 2020, as much as 47% of those surveyed assessed their own mental health as bad. Prior to the pandemic, at the end of 2019, that percentage was approximately 10%. Mental health professionals are growing increasingly alarmed about the declining mental state of young people who they say have been among the most badly affected by the present state world with a foreshortened sense of the future. Faced with restricted social life and added uncertainty at what is already a precarious moment in their lives, a lot of youngsters admit suffering from a sense they are losing precious time in their prime years. It seems that we do not have a lot of opportunities to speak openly about mental health in public spaces. Words such as depression and anxiety are still used as labels, pointing that a person is not strong enough, resourceful enough, or functional enough. It is important to recognize and emphasize the absurdity of such notions, which is exactly why we are here today. We believe that it is crucial to destigmatize talks about mental health, so we asked ourselves what we can do to support each other in these times of need.
In the beginning, we are going to listen to the attitudes and opinions of our young fellow citizens regarding mental health. Then, we will have the chance to host 2 experts who will shed light to this topic from 2 different perspectives. And at the very end, we will talk about what we can do when we feel that we or someone close to us is under too much pressure. Our show will also be filled with the beats of our local musicians, talented bands, and vocal artists from our town. One such band is Ućuti pas, and this is their song Tražim.
Malo sreći večan si, ali nemaš ti, trebaš ti, što je tvoje tražiti. Zato vratite mi vi, što ste odneli i oteli svaki deo mene, svaki moj san. Svaku noć kad koračao sam sam, a želeo dan. Zato vratite Vratite mi moje jer na lice stavljam boje da se vaša lica boje. Sada dolazim po staro za novo, menjaš prepuko rano je pogrešna procena. Sada kasno je, apati karike rđave naravi. Ako nešto vredi ponovo se i sastavi. Ti tražiš osmeh ali nemaš ga na sebi. Ti mi pružaš ruke ali ne pružaj k meni. Ti bi našao sreću ali ne na mestu pravom. Našao bi sve kada tragao bi stalno. Tražim jer ne mogu da imam. Tražim jer to je moje pravo, zato moram da vas imam. Tražim jer ne mogu da nađem to što je moje, ali nije gotovo. Tražim jer ne mogu da imam. Tražim jer to je moje pravo, zato moram da vas imam. Tražim jer ne mogu da nađem to što je moje, ali nije gotovo.
For starters, let's hear what you think mental health is.
Clarity and order in one's thoughts, being at ease with yourself and the world around you.
Mental health for me is when I'm in peace with myself, when I'm not so hard on myself, or when I can stay positive no matter what happens to me.
In my opinion, mental health is a mixture of physical health, because physical health easily helps with any pain, whereas with mental problems you may not always be aware of having one. So it's sort of a complex process, and I think that a lot of people have mental health issues, but the thing is that they don't really show it.
In my opinion, mental health is connected to our emotional well-being, and it impacts how we act, how we interact with other people, how we think. And I'd say that people often do not realize that they do have some problems and that they should seek help, or at least be more gentle with themselves and stop for a minute and ask themselves how they're actually feeling, what do they really want. And people often overthink and have negative thoughts and predictions, and they're worrying all the time, not realizing that they should take care of themselves, and that all of these emotions and thoughts have to be taken care of. So it's really important to have that in mind and normalize talking about mental health and mental illnesses.
We also asked our fellow citizens if they have ever felt that their mental health was affected somehow. Here is what they've said.
I feel like I have a poor mental health when I have so many things to do but so little time, or when I don't do things that I love for a long time.
I sometimes feel that everything is bothering me. Like my skin is one size smaller, like I want out, you know, I feel like a wild man inside skin too tight.
Of course, I have experienced my mental health being low. It was mainly due to many information and fake news which are exploited to us. So I often ask myself if I really am okay, but I think that the main cause is media. So a long time ago I found a quote which says, if you read newspaper, you're badly informed, but if you don't read, you're not informed at all. So in general, I feel like people need to give less attention to social media and TV and more attention to reading.
There were definitely times where I felt under a huge pressure, nervous, angry, irritated, all these strong emotions that are almost sometimes irrational. But I wouldn't say that I have ever felt like I had any real mental health issues, real mental health problems. But at the same time, I'd say that people do not realize that even constant worrying and anxiousness that we feel on everyday basis is impacting our health, and not just our mental health, but also our whole well-being, because of course our mental health is connected to our whole body. And so I'd say that we should really take our mental health in consideration and consider our emotions more deeply.
The last question of our small audio survey refers to how our local youngsters take care of
I try to avoid talking to myself out loud, or at least I try not to do so when there are people around, because someone might think I'm losing it.
I love to read popular psychology books where I can learn new ways how to improve myself and my mental health. And also I love to write things that I'm grateful for, and whenever I do something good, I try to reward myself.
I live my life to the fullest. I'm trying to always save hope, faith, love, and attitude. All jokes aside, I try not to shift negative energy from work on my family and friends. My friends and I spend a lot of time in nature. We enjoy trail running, sky running, mountain running, and we really try to seek discomfort as much as we can. I try to have my weekends filled with activities, so I literally charge my batteries during the weekend because I work a lot during the week. So it's really a lot more interesting when you have good positive company. And we have traveled to a lot of places around Serbia and have met a lot of great people because of the same hobbies, and we really share the same motto, which is basically having a great positive company and enjoying nature to the fullest.
I have tried over the years to make some sort of a routine. I would exactly know what would I do on a day when I want to rest and feel this relief of all the obligations and mandatory things I have to do during the week, and not just connected with school and academic life, but also my responsibilities in the household. So whenever I want to wind down and relax, I take a walk and I listen to music when I do that, because it helps me release all these negative emotions and thoughts. I also like to read books and sometimes hang out with my friends, but it depends on my mood, because if I feel anxious and sad, it's most likely that I'll stay at home and spend time with myself and use it in the best way that I possibly can. But on the days where I do feel lonely and need some company, I would of course go out, meet people, socialize, and try to suppress all these negative emotions by surrounding myself with people that I love and care about.
Došlo je to vreme da kažem
have listened to our regional vocal artist Mina Knežević and her song Osjećam. And we now return to our program.
In order to find out about the phenomenon of mental health in more detail, we decided to call in an expert and pick her brains about this topic. She is Milica Krstic, a graduated psychologist with an MA in digital marketing and social networks who studied in Belgrade and Thessaloniki. Also, Milica is a Heal Your Life coach and workshop leader. In her work with her clients, she is focused on finding the balance between the outer and the inner self. The framework of her work is positive psychology and Heal Your Life coaching. We asked Milica the following questions. How important is the sense of personal purpose for mental well-being? Is mental hygiene an individual's matter, or is it a matter of the society? And to what extent does empathy influence this phenomenon?
A sense of personal purpose is very, very important for mental health. Sometimes, when we do not have a clear enough sense of purpose, we can feel frustrated, apathetic, worried, sometimes even angry. We can also be aggressive. This is very common among young people in our environment, whom we are witnessing more and more often. And what is then happening? For example, when people are young, they don't know if they want to continue their education, studying, if they want to enroll in college after high school, which faculty they want to enroll in, etc. There is often a situation where parents say, for example, we would like you to be a doctor. So basically they're sending message to a child, you are important if you study medicine because that is our wish. So they're sending discrete messages, and often young people in that transitional period of their lives, for example, those periods are from primary school to secondary school or from secondary school to college. So during those periods, there is a loss of, they don't have that sense of purpose. They need to develop it. So young people have some idea of what they want to become, but most often in our society it is not supported by parents or the environment. To summarize, a sense of personal purpose is very important, and we need to realize as soon as possible what is our personal purpose, and it's important to be in touch with ourselves, to ask those questions, who I am, what I want. Those are the questions we should ask ourselves. Although in younger period it is not clear to young people what they would like, what it is, what is bringing satisfaction and income in the future. Can they live from that job or the thing that is their personal purpose? It is difficult to understand feelings in younger period of one's life, and to be in contact with their self. So lastly, a sense of personal purpose is very important. The more we are in touch with ourselves, when we listen to ourselves, we are setting healthy boundaries. We are simply listening to our needs and taking responsibility for our lives. That is actually helping us to find our inner purpose. Is mental hygiene a matter of the individual or society? I definitely think that mental hygiene is first a matter of the individual and then of society. An individual makes a society, and when an individual deals with her or himself, they are doing psychotherapy, meditation, going on yoga, whatever mental hygiene means for them, for that individuals, for me, for you, for generally society, then we raise awareness of mental hygiene. And then when I'm part of society and I'm spreading that story and share it with the people around me, then society also begins to develop an awareness of mental hygiene. To what extent does empathy affect the phenomenon of mental health? Empathy is a very important phenomenon, and it represents the ability to look at life from someone else's perspective in order to understand what that other person is feeling. When we are able to feel primarily ourselves, then we are also able to feel the other person. Then we raise mental health to a higher, the awareness of mental health to a higher level. We are more in touch with ourselves, and I think that that is the way we take more care of our mental health.
We also wanted to know how we can notice that we are or that someone close to us is in need of help. To what extent do young people in Serbia realize the state of their mental health? Do they, and when do they ask for professional help?
First of all, we know these people. Most often they are our friends or members of our family. We spend a lot of time with them and we know how they normally behave. When we notice that she or he is starting to change behavior, either avoids us or is unavailable, we see one drastic change in behavior compared to what was before. Those can sometimes be finesse. We can notice that our friend has dark circles under his eyes. It can be insignificant that he did not sleep last night, and it can also mean that he does not sleep at all at night. That he has nightmares, something bothers him, or maybe he's even anxious. So you definitely want to know your friends, parents or family best, and when you notice that something is different, that they are unavailable, when you see visible changes in their behavior, it is the right time to advise them to seek help. To what extent are young people in Serbia aware of their mental health? I think that young people in Serbia are increasingly aware of their mental health because of social media and because of the knowledge that is available on the internet. Knowledge is available today, and if someone is interested and wants to learn about psychology, mental health, they can just invest their knowledge, their energy and their time, and they can find all the information they need. Mostly young people have recently focusing on positive psychology and the positive way of thinking, but in general I think that people are starting to be more and more in contact with themselves, to listen to themselves and to stand up for themselves. They're slowly learning to set healthy boundaries and to take responsibility for themselves and their lives. I think that in the last few years, young people have become more aware of their mental health. Should they and when should they seek professional help? When they feel that they simply need support, when they feel lonely, when they think that they have no one, if they think that they're alone on their path, that there is a lack of support and stability, sometimes it maybe sounds strange. It seems to us that the ground is shaking under our feet. And if someone is, like throwing, like we feel like someone is throwing us out of our body, like we are not there, we are not here. When we feel absent, when we feel sad, we are losing control with ourselves, or we are afraid of what will happen in the future, or we're blaming ourselves for doing something wrong in the past, then we're losing contact with the present moment, with us right now here. Then we definitely need to seek for professional help.
Finally, we wanted Milica to tell us what each of us can do when we feel like we're losing our balance.
Just go back to the present moment. That may sound very simple, but in fact, it sometimes isn't. When we are overwhelmed by feeling fear or any other unpleasant emotion, for example, a feeling of anger, what we can do, as a recommendation from body-oriented psychotherapy, when we leave our body, so we are not here, we are not in the present moment, it is advised to sit down, put both of your legs on the ground, focus on breathing, because when we breathe, we connect with ourselves in the present moment. Here we connect with ourselves right now and here. Let's ground ourselves. Sit, breathe slowly, lightly, both feet on the floor, and focus on the present moment. We begin to slowly focus on our body, on our breath, on ourselves. And we are slowly trying to feel where that discord, nervousness, or fear is, wherever it is. Try to find it, try to feel it. And slowly from that state of anger or fear, we return to the present moment, which is definitely more pleasant and safer. In this way, we can get ourselves back in balance. I would also like to add that in the past periods, such as pandemics and quarantine, we spend a lot of time at home. There is a fear of uncertainty. We don't know what will happen if we will wear masks forever, if a new coronavirus mutation is created, if we will infect someone we love. A lot of people are scared. I always advise in those situations when there is that overwhelming fear that is extremely strong. So the fear is real. The virus exists, that's a fact. But it is important to be aware that we are in a safe place right now. Wherever you are right now, in this moment, you can make a choice and you have control over how you feel because you took responsibility for yourself, for your life. And we can make a decision not to be scared. Right now and right here, where you are in a safe and secure place. Connect with yourself by breathing. Try to feel your body as much as possible and apply it every time an attack of a large amount of fear occurs. Also, I want to mention that in these states it is useful to have one positive affirmation that can help you. And I would choose my favorite. That is, I love and I accept myself right here, right now. Lastly, I would like to mention gratitude. We often forget to give thanks for all we have. Now, use this moment to remember things that you take for granted and they're actually a blessing.
It's hard to tell, not hard to see. The way she walks always gets me. Smile on her mouth always makes my day. Makes me wanna stay, makes me run away. But now I can't see straight anymore. A blindfold I am like a prisoner of war. Just for one day I need to clear my mind, but you know it can be done. She's a perfect design. Sometimes I gotta try, sometimes I gotta know. Will you be there at my next show? Will you blow the dance floor just the way you know? Stealing all the fame, running to unknown. Stunning eyes, they cut me every time. Always leave me speechless, wanna commit a crime. Just like a venom, she's deep in my blood. Every day I need her like a desert needs a flood. And now I can't dream a dream without her. Everything is mess, everything is blur. Everywhere I look, I can see the shape of you. Someone calling madness, but I know it's just you. Sometimes I gotta try, sometimes I gotta know. Will you be there at my next show? Will you blow the dance floor just the way you know? Stealing all the fame, running to unknown.
Mental health is more than just the absence of mental disorders. By definition, it is a state of well-being in which an individual can realize its potential and is capable of dealing with everyday stress while still being productive. Today with us is Dragan Bogdanović, a PE teacher at our local high school. Hello.
Hello, Nicolina.
Hello, Zeka. How are you today?
I'm perfectly fine, thanks.
We're glad to hear that.
Our foreign listeners might find it interesting to know that the nickname Zeka actually means a rabbit, or actually a bunny to be precise in English.
Yeah, I have a big ears and nose too.
Zeka, as you know, today we're talking about mental health. So first of all, we'd like you to tell us what mental health means to you.
Well, Mikhailo, for me, mental health is a state of mind, a positive state of mind to be precise. I'd like to point out one sentence that sums up what I find important. Mental hygiene is a science discipline that uses the benefits of other sciences such as biology, psychology, and sociology. Today, I will speak about mental health from the perspective of a physical activity, and I'm really happy to be your guest and talk about how physical activity can improve our state of mind.
Dobro veče, dobar dan, poštovanje svima. Molim, prati ritam koji gasi ova klika. Nema klika, ni buma, fali neka buna što se buni kroz ritam prljavoga zvuka. Kreni sa nama bez cilja i motiva. Isprati ideju ne čoveka što sija. Radim što mi prija, nemoj da si liga. Mnogo godina se cimam, trgujem sa svima. Pasi, počela je radna akcija. Ovoj zemlji potrebna je drugačija nacija. Kakva nam je muzika, takva nam je nacija. Hoću da mi dete raste uz paka i marlija. Džaba, džaba, sve džaba, džaba, sve džaba, 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 sve džaba, džaba, sve džaba, 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 pesma koja nema muda, koju ne skazi svako i ne stigne svuda. Džaba, džaba, sve džaba, džaba, sve džaba, 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 sve džaba, džaba, sve džaba, 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 pesma koja nema muda, koju ne skazi svako i ne stigne svuda. Prilaz do tebe, trnoviti težak, kroz gomilu predrasuda postaću ja vredan. Ako bar jedan pomisli isto, ako me shvatiš zašto sam piso. Ne, nisam reper, a nisam ni reke, ne znam zašto samo ta stvar muči tebe. Ponekad mi dođe da zapalim pesme, ponekad mi dođe da izdam sebe. Otići ću daleko, ako sad ne vratim se, moram ići dalje, ako hoćeš prati me. Zato znam da ovde zbog kritike i pridike, reči koje napišem zar niko više ne čuje. Džaba, džaba, sve džaba, ma džaba, sve džaba, 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 sve džaba, ma džaba, sve džaba, 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 pesma koja nema muda, koju ne skazi svako i ne stigne svuda. Džaba, džaba, sve džaba, ma džaba, sve džaba, 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 sve džaba, ma džaba, sve džaba, 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 pesma koja nema muda, koju ne skazi svako i ne stigne svuda.
Zeka, I am curious to know how you would define your role and your goal as a PE teacher and educator.
First of all, I have to say that in our studies at the Faculty of Sport and Physical Education at the University of Belgrade, educating students and learning how to be an educator constitute an important part. This is not the case with all faculties in our country. I would like to point out the Finnish model. In Finland, if you study chemistry, for instance, and you know that you want to be a chemistry teacher, there is a special course of studies that you have to take and a special path that will lead you to become an educator. In our country, most faculties have general courses, and the academic title that you get is that of a teacher of a certain subject. In Serbia, we get the title of high school professor. In most cases, people who end up teaching in school have no idea what is waiting for them over there, and they are not equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary for working with young people who are in such delicate years of their life. If you work with students of different age, you have to be aware that different psychology applies to children aged 10, and that you have to use a completely different approach to students who are 18 years old. So, in Finland, for example, and I'm mentioning it as an example of good practice, from the start on you choose if you are going to be a teacher or not. And if you choose that option, you have a lot of subjects that have to do with psychology and education of children and youngsters overall.
I know what you mean because I study mathematics and I have a lot of general subjects, but nobody actually teaches me how to approach young people, and we all know that sometimes they can be sensitive. If we learned how to approach youth during our studies, I feel that teaching would be much easier and much more rewarding.
Exactly. As a PE teacher, I'm aware of my students' physical growth and development and their physical health. But I also have to be aware of their mental growth and development and the problems that may occur there as well.
Teachers should be aware of that, but some teachers are not really, are they? Mikhailo and I just finished high school a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, and I think I can speak for both of us. It seemed that at our school there were teachers that came into the classroom, they had their way, they talked about the things from the curriculum, but they didn't go too deep into how we as students perceived things.
Well, yes, the methodology of teaching is one thing, and it should be taken seriously. But approaching students in the right way is another thing that is also extremely important. So, I'd say that my goal is to understand my students and find the right way to approach them, so that they can learn at their own pace while feeling comfortable. And so that I can find a way to pass on knowledge the way that suits them the best.
And speaking of that, tell us more how you educate your student to use physical activity as a tool to reach mental stability and fulfillment.
That is a great question. Physical activity is quite a strong tool to reach mental stability. There are lots of things that we do in PE classes and even beyond them. As a teacher of physical education, I'm trying to expose my students to experiences that can lift them in a way and lead them to achieve a state of mental fulfillment so that they would want to repeat that experience after the schools and classes end. A great example of that is rowing competition, for which I had been preparing 11 students for 2 months. During those 2 months of practicing, we had basically developed a community and we become friends. You are one of that friends, Mikhailo. Even today, we keep in touch. We are like family who can rely on each other and support each other. The bond that we still have is so strong even though more than 2 years have passed since then.
So, rowing is an example of a group sport. What happens if a person prefers to do something on their own and, I don't know, maybe go running or play tennis?
That is completely different level of reaching mental well-being. In group sports, you have team players who can depend on and rely on, but in individual sports, you rely only on yourself. However, in your head, you can have different things that can serve to support you and that you can use to overcome difficulties in a race. But that system is up to you to create. For example, when you run a half marathon, 21 kilometer, there are a few critical points, like at the 12th kilometer your knees hurt and you might think you cannot do it and you are on the verge to quitting, but you persist and overcome that. And then at the 15th kilometer there is another crisis and so on. But when in the end you overcome all those crises, You practically beat yourself and become a stronger person. And that feeling sticks with you for another week or two. You feel so strong and so self-confident that I can say that your mental health is elevated and is on a whole new level.
In the audio survey we heard earlier on, one person said how running different trails and sky running, and honestly, as a person who isn't really into running, I'm not really sure what that is, but he says that he has a group of people that he goes running with and that they push each other to do better each time. It seems to me that individual sport doesn't always have to be individual.
That is true as well. On one side, yes, you have yourself to beat. But on the other, there are lots of people around you who are doing the same thing. When you experience sky running, which is truly beautiful, think as you run into the mountains through woods and down rivers, you guys have to try it really. I highly recommend it. And when you finish the race, the energy that is within you, this adrenaline that overflows your body, gives you an incredible feeling. And you are just one participant in the race. There are lots of people around you who are experiencing the same thing, and they transfer this energy to each other, so you can imagine the amount of energy in just one place. That is truly elevating. That is more lifting than even the race itself. People cheer each other on, saying things like, "Well done, you did it." This is really rewarding, more than the reward, the medal or trophy that you get.
So it's basically like charging your batteries?
Exactly. This charging takes a couple of hours, but the power that you have remains for days after this race, even for a lifetime.
Neke stvari ne mogu znati. 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 Da li vi možda hteli svi da vidimo kako bilo bi kada bi jasno videli neke ljude, ružne navike, kada vide da ti dobro ide, dolazi do panike. U glavi crne rupe uvek neko glume, pa se spotaknu na one lude i glume. Budi glas koji čuje se daleko, eho, neka zvona zvone ko da umro je neko. Iako ti neke stvari ne bi rekao, bilo bi i bolje da sam otišao preko. Ne ovako, trpim sve to redom, ovde da je sve bilo med i mleko. Živce krpim za rakijom i lekom, nemoj da se kuneš kad ti ništa nije sveto. Ja na sve to samo bi rekao da ti je vero druže ukao neko. Neke stvari ne mogu znati. Neke stvari ne mogu znati. Neke stvari ne mogu znati. Neke stvari ne mogu znati.
This was the song Neke stvari by Učiti Pas, and we are back in studio with our guest Zeka, who is talking about reaching mental well-being through sport and physical activity. We have one more question for you, Zeka. What is it that you personally do to reach that peace of mind?
Well, at the time being, I do paragliding. I enjoy going into nature, rising up to 2,000 meters and just flying over Serbia and other neighboring countries. I would also like to visit Colombia next year, and yes, that is something that's truly fulfilled me.
Zeka, I hate to be that guy, but I have to go back to school at the end. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little more about the ways that school take care of mental health of its students. To what extent do you, as an individual, have space to react and intervene when you notice that someone needs help?
Well, Mikhailo, when we encounter a student who is suspected to have serious issues or problems, we as teachers always turn to the school psychologists, as this person has the necessary qualifications to address these issues. However, if it often happens that students come to me with some everyday struggles, minor life problems that we all have had at some point in our lives and still have it, because they feel they can consult me and ask me for my opinion. I always try to transfer my experience to them and try to advise them in the best way that I possibly can, so as to help them resolve their problems, so that they can hopefully one day, long after they finish school, come up to me like you and Nikolina have done today, and you were both my students, and teach me something or show me something new in return.
Like to go out of your comfort zone and speak English after a long time to listeners all across Europe.
Oh, yeah, yes, Nikolina, thank you for mentioning that. Yes, this exchange of experience is what it's all about in the end.
Speaking of that, thank you, Zeka, for being here with us today and speaking about how we can improve our mental health through physical activity.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you guys for reminding me to take part in your show.
Prazan prostor između nas, pun stvari koje znam da znaš. Nastavljam da pričam dok u glavi svašta nešto zamišljam. Vazduh miriše na strast, osjećaje slatka slad. Nastavljam da pričam dok u očima ti vidim glad. Da je malo drugačije sve, bilo bi mi čudno, ali radi mi se sve sa tobom. Sa tobom, bilo kad i bilo gde. Sa tobom. Prazan prostor, vodka i led, taj tvoj pogled omamljan. Neću da se pravim kada znaš da ja se isto osjećam. Zašto da se foliramo kada ti i ja sve znamo, imali bi srećan kraj. Volim te do jutra, ali volit ću i sutra, tako volim ovaj osjećaj. Neko drugi me ne pomera, kao ti kad me dozivaš. Dragi, čekala sam dugo baš, znam da bili smo drugari, ali menjaju se stvari, probio želim da uradim sve sa tobom. Sa tobom, bilo kad i bilo gde. Sa tobom.
This was our local singer and songwriter Milica Krstic with his song Ludi.
If you feel stressed, if you feel like you are on the verge of losing control, or you have the feeling that you cannot deal with a certain situation, there is a simple exercise which can serve as a first aid kit to resort to. You can try to do it now, here, with us. It is a mindfulness exercise which is actually a technique of practicing directing your attention to the present moment in which you focus on being intensely aware of what you are sensing and feeling in the moment, without interpretation or judgment.
Ready? Let's try it. Get into a comfortable position. You can try to close your eyes if that makes you feel comfortable. Breathe in through the nose to the count of 4, and out to the count of 6. Whatever thoughts come and go through your mind at this point, simply observe them, as if from a distance. See them as colored balloons, as separate from you, and let them go. Let them float away. You are present now. You are not controlled by your thoughts. You can acknowledge that they are simply that, thoughts. Be conscious of the beat of blood within you, of the rhythm of your breathing, the brush of clothing against your skin. Feel the surface on which you sit and how your body presses into it. Be aware of any sense that you can smell, of colors that you can see. Notice the detail in the sounds that you are hearing. Feel the temperature of the space that you are in. Being aware of all that is within you and around you right now, at this very moment.
How are you? Really take a couple of seconds and think about how you truly feel. If you feel overwhelmed, hopeless, if you find it difficult to find strength in yourself to get through the day, you do not have to go through that alone. Confide in someone. Try talking to the people that are close to you. If you'd by chance prefer to stay anonymous, you can ask for professional help. The help you need is on the other side of the line if you dial 0800-309-309. In the link that is in the description of this podcast, there is a list of addresses and phone numbers that you can get professional help through.
Thank you for being with us. We owe enormous gratitude for the realization of this program to the Galaxy FM radio, whose studio we are now in. It is a studio that uses the frequency of 89.3 megahertz to emit great music and fantastic energy to the citizens of our small town. Once again, we would like to say thank you to the local artists and musicians whose beats livened up this show, as well as our guests, Milica Krstic as psychologist and PE teacher Dragan Bogdanovićc Zeka, who talked about the phenomenon of mental health from the perspective of their professions.
You have been listening to the show Around Europe in 60 Minutes by the Center for Social Innovation Centrifuge, an organization led by young people for young people. By taking part in the Youth on Air project, we have learned how to create this and hopefully many more radio shows to come. Until our next radio show, fare mentally and physically well.
I saw a star. Sunset.
come hand ourselves. And if they try to give us a chance, they would know that this is just in the sky. I saw a star, bright as you.